I am modeling an entire Aston Martin Valhalla to make a product visualization scene in Unreal Engine, and this is part 2 of my series. In the first part, we modeled the front part of the car, and today we're going to do the sides and the windshield. I just want to remind you that all the images I use as references are available for free on my Patreon, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you don't want to miss the next videos. This said, let's get modeling. Here's what we've done last time. Now let's do the sides of our car. I'm going to go on side view and I'll start to shape this first part of the car's door. However, keep in mind that what we're doing here is only what we see on the side of the car. We'll have to fill the rest later. Off camera, I divided all the objects in the outliner in 4 different collections to have a tidier workspace. One for the references, one for the finished parts, one for some backups, and one for work-in-progress geometry. But let's just focus on our model. I hid what we finished to make our blueprint more understandable. Now create a cube. Enter edit mode and collapse edges and faces to get a single vertex. Start to shape the border extruding with E, this part up here. Remember, you want the same number of edges on both sides to maintain good topology and to be able to grid fill this thing, so make sure to not mess this up. Also, position this vertex here, because we're going to need it later to extend the rim of the car. Actually, I want one more vertex here on the sides to get a better shape. Repeat the same process here on the bottom. I just created 2 quads down here, then I filled the rest and fixed some triangles. Then I filled everything and made the rim of the wheel. I noticed that we don't need these vertices. Now let's try dimensionalize this. The only part we can see here is this upper part right here, so let's do that first. Now let's do this part down here. Now we just need to fill these faces. The next step is covering this part. To do that, I'm going to follow the structure of my existing geometry, so 3 vertices on this side and 2 up here. Press Shift+N to correct the normals. Remember to repeat this operation on all the faces periodically. Now let's round this shape. I realized that this group of vertices actually has to follow this sharp edge we did in the last video. We want to close this part of the headlight by following what we did on the last one, so play around and figure out how you can sort of extend the shape we did on the last part. I just want to remind you that to check for shading issues, you can apply a matte cap by selecting it here on this drop-down menu. Now to complete this part, we'll just have to fix this other part into his place. If you notice, this part right here doesn't follow a really straight line, but it curves just a little bit. I didn't find a quicker way to bend this, so I had to move the vertices one by one. Maybe let me know in the comments if you found a better way to do this. By using a matte cap to check my work, I found this little issue with a vertex. No big deal, I just had to move it a little bit out. Now that the first part is ready, let's focus on making the rest of the door. The door of our Aston Martin is characterized by this metal part with a line that creates a sharp edge, then goes down and inwards to give space to a beautiful carbon fiber body. So let's start by the metal part. Start by simply duplicating one of the vertices and positioning it under what we did earlier. Then extrude and subdivide the edges to create the shape of the curve. To make our geometry a little more ordinate, I'm going to use loop tools to create an equal space between the vertices. However, you can adjust them anyway. For example, this vertex here has to go here on the closure of the door as we want to model the door separately. Simply repeat the process for the other part. Obviously, make sure to maintain the same number of edges on opposite sides. To make the line flatter, I use the G-Stretch loop tool. After that, I filled everything up to the car's door and adjusted the position on the Y-axis. Now let's pass to the carbon fiber body. I extruded the last part of this metal side by a little bit, then I extruded down and adjusted the position of the vertices. I then added a loop cut to shrink this part. To better understand what's going on, I'm going to apply a subdivision modifier. To do that, press Ctrl+2. I created a bevel here to get a sharp cut between metal and carbon fiber. Make sure that here on the bevel setting, your shape is set to 1 and your number of segments is 2. Finally, I extruded everything out, rounded the shape, and made this air diffuser. Our door is starting to look pretty neat. Finally, let's move to this little part, and then we're done with the lower part of the door. Now we can move to the upper part. I just made this line, continued this part here to go around the cockpit, and applied some bevels to make the sharp edges. After playing around for nearly 1 hour, I think this is a pretty good shape. Also, I found this cool shading settings from Arian, link in the description. Now that we have our door done, we can concentrate on making all the upper part of the car. I want to make the doors separated from the windshield to be able to open them, and I think it's going to look pretty cool. I outlined the car's window, filled it to make the glass, then copied it to make the border. I then made this little triangle here and adjusted this line to fit. Great, now we can concentrate on closing the roof of the car. I noticed that we don't need these vertices here. Then I duplicated a vertex and outlined the roof of the car too. You can see by watching the reference that the door has a curved line at the end. I added a bevel on this line and some reinforcing edge loops to make the geometry less round. And so we finished the door of our car. Now to give it some thickness, let's add a solidify modifier. I'm going to use a thickness of 1 centimeter and a subdivision level of 2. Make sure that you put the solidify modifier first, unless there's going to be some shading issues. Now let's finish with the windshield. I'm going to start by duplicating a part of the outline we made earlier and separate to new object with P then by selection. Then I'm going to hide the rest and start shaping the windshield. I extruded this border down and beveled this part to create a sharp edge between the door and the windshield. Then extruded this group of faces out to create this central bump. The only thing remaining is the front glass, so let's go ahead. For this, I hid everything and repeated the same process we did for the side window. I outlined the border, insetted to create the border, duplicated and filled to create the glass. This time I didn't separate this to parts as here on reference they are close to each other. Congratulations! You have finished the middle part of our Aston Martin Valhalla. Now we just have to mirror everything on the other side. However, I'm going to create some backups in case I need them. In the last video, some of you said I should use a mirror modifier to do this operation. So let's use it. Make sure to mirror everything only on the y-axis. Also make sure that all of the vertices in the middle are perfectly overlapping. Merge these vertices together. Make sure that you delete these 3 vertices too, as we don't need them today. Finally, when you duplicate the doors, make sure to separate them from each other to be able to control them separately. In the next video, I'm going to model the back part of the car. Then I'm going to cover the details like the headlights, rear view mirrors, and the tires. Also, I was thinking to make the interior of the car. Let me know in the comments if you like the idea. This said, I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel to not miss the next videos. And as always, see you in the next ones.